And now I have the pleasure of introducing one of the stalwart supporters of the Second Chance Act and other significant legislation. Congressman Elijah Cummings is the representative from Maryland's 7th Congressional District. That is Baltimore, for those who are not in this area. He serves as a ranking member of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, and he has just been a consistent and dynamic supporter of this bipartisan criminal justice legislative agenda. In September, Representative Cummings introduced the Fair Chance Act bipartisan bill, and I'm sure he'll have an opportunity to talk a little bit more about that today. Please welcome Representative Cummings. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Come on, we can do better than that. Good evening, everyone. It is indeed my honor and my privilege to be here this afternoon. To all of you, I thank you, and I want to thank Stefan and Amy Rosa, who I have worked with quite a bit. I also want to thank the Council of State Governments Justice Center for hosting this conference. I'm not going to be long, and I apologize for running a little behind. It's just been a very, very hectic day. As you can imagine, my responsibilities are great. Being the top Democrat on the Benghazi Committee, at the same time being the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee, dealing with the omnibus bill, and just trying to be human. It gets a little tiring at times. But I've come by here this afternoon, first of all, to thank you for what you do. You are the ones who change the trajectory of so many people's destinies, and I thank you for it. You know, I was just in Baltimore yesterday as we had gotten the results of the Freddie Gray, the first police trial from the Freddie Gray incident. And I thought about as I was coming over here, I thought about Freddie Gray, and I thought about the many Freddie Grays throughout our country. The Freddie Grays who so often are forgotten. I shall never forget at the funeral of Freddie Gray, there were at least 40 cameras from all over the world. They were from Portugal, from Belgium, England, France, Switzerland. They were up in the balcony at the New Shiloh Baptist Church. And there he lay in front of me in a casket with his hopes and dreams and aspirations buried in the casket. But I asked one question. It was a very simple question. I looked up at the cameras in the balcony and I asked this. I said, I'm so glad that you have come from all around the world today to see a little boy that grew up in my neighborhood. But I ask you the bigger question. Did you see him when he lived? Did you see the boy that was born to a drug-addicted mother? Did you see the same little boy who was born in the words of the Negro National Anthem in a time when hope unborn had already died? Did you see him? Did you see the little boy who was forced to go to poor schools and then to live in house after house after house after house that were filled with lead? Did you see him? Did you see him as he struggled in the second and third grade, still trying to read the words, see spot run? Did you see him? Did you see him when he could not understand why he could not comprehend and did not realize that because there was so much lead in his body that his brain was not functioning properly? Did you see him? And I've come by here today to thank you for seeing so many people who have fallen in one way or another in a criminal justice system that is not always fair. I thank you for seeing them, but I thank you for doing something else. I thank you for having compassion. I thank you for equipping yourselves with the knowledge necessary to help folks. And then I thank you for doing something, making a difference. And so here we are in 2015, when finally the world begins to realize what you realized a long time ago. There's something absolutely wrong in a country that's 5%, has 5% of the world's population, but 25% of its prisoners. You get it. Understanding that there's so many men and women sitting in prisons all over our country for nonviolent drug offenses, rotting in jails. And in my district, in my block, where I live, in the Freddie Gray district, boys who go and rot in jail for selling marijuana when in Colorado you can buy it over the counter. There's something wrong with that picture. Simply not fair. And then when they come out, get a criminal record, and they don't even have to go to prison. See, I'm in a very unique and special position. Not only am I a member of Congress, I'm a lawyer. Not only am I I'm a lawyer, I live in the inner city. Not only do I live in the inner city, I know how the criminal justice system works. Somebody gets stopped for a tail light, and sometimes for nothing. In my area, it's nothing, quite often. Then an argument ensues between the cops, the police, and the suspect, quote unquote. The next thing you know, there's some words exchanged, and the next thing you know, you got charges like resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, assaulting a police, and it goes on and on. Then you have somebody who's arrested, does not have the bail money, has a little job that he's trying to make it, trying to do the best he can with what he has. And they say it's going to take you, the bail is so high, and they say now you know, maybe it's 6 months to a year before you even get to trial. What you gonna do? So the public defender comes in. He's got 40 cases in one day, sometimes more. Rush through the system. 90%, maybe 95% of the cases are pleaded out. He just wants to get out of jail. And so he gets out, but he's got a record. And in my block, where I live, there's not a day that goes by that somebody does not come up to me and say, Mr. Cummings, man, you know, I respect you, man. But like a real Mr. Cummings, I got out of prison like 2 months ago, Jack. I can't get no job. I can't get no job. I don't know what I'm going to do. I got 2 children. But I tell you one thing, Mr. Cummings, if you can't help me get a job, I got to do something. You've heard it. And what he means is he's got to go out there and commit a crime. And there's so many people that will sit around and say he's a horrible, horrible person. He doesn't see it that way. He got 2 kids with nothing to eat. And so it's about a second chance. I often say to those people who criticize folk who've been in difficult circumstances that you've been fortunate. We're all the walking wounded. And if you don't believe you're the walking wounded, you just keep on living. You will be. And so, in the Congress, what we're doing is finally, like I said, I'm almost finished. You look nervous over there. See, in my block, if a fly moves, you know it. And so now, suddenly, the world has awakened. The world has awakened and said, you know, we don't need all these people in prison. And so we're going to do some things to alleviate that. But the problem is that once you get that record, as you well know, you're sentenced for a lifetime. For a lifetime. And so the things that you are doing are very important. But I want you to know that there is something that I thought I would never see in my 20 years in Congress. There are, in fact, coalitions coming together. You would never believe it. But Darrell Issa and I are co-sponsors. It's hard for me to even say it. I mean, after you turned off my mic and stuff, but we are co-sponsors of the ban the box legislation. We're co-sponsors. And as you know, it's already gotten through the Senate. And there's a lot of legislation out there. But I've come here to beg you to understand that you have 2 responsibilities. Number 1, you have the responsibility to do what you do every day. But you got another responsibility. We need you to have our backs. We need you who are the witnesses and who understand it and who have the compassion to let the world know that it is important that the Koch brothers come together with the Congressional Black Caucus and that Republicans come together with Democrats to address issues opening up more opportunities for those who may have a record. You are the ones that have to continuously advocate for legislation so that people can have records expunged. It's very important. Because again, this is about all of us. I'm gonna close, I'm finished. You come on up. As I close, let me say this. Ladies and gentlemen, always remember people do things for 2 reasons. Just 2 reasons. Tweet this. People do things either to gain pleasure or avoid pain, or a combination of both. Why am I saying that? We have to make sure the world knows that when you've got 70 million people with records, it will bring great pleasure if we can allow them to be all that God meant for them to be, and that we help them to raise their children and become taxpayers and voters, and participants in this democracy. We need to understand, make them understand that there's pleasure in that. But we must also do something else. We must make them understand that there is pain when we don't do it. When we deprive a child of a father who at Christmas time can buy a tree and can buy some little presents. I'm not talking about no moped. I'm talking about a used bike. A father who can take him to the park. I'm not talking about Disney World, just the park. A mother who can afford not filet mignon, but some hamburger. That's what it's all about. We have one life to live. This is no dress rehearsal, and this is that life. And so that's why I raced up here to catch you before you left. Because I wanted to thank you. No, you will never appear on the front page of the Washington Post. You may not even make the local supermarket gazette. Amen. You will never be paid what you deserve. Because people who operate with passion can never be compensated adequately. But one thing I tell you, there will be people who you will affect. And you will not just affect them, but you will affect their children and their children's children. You will allow them to go in an upward generational cycle instead of a downward spiral. You're the ones. And so I thank you for seeing the Freddie Grays of the world. I thank you for giving a damn. I thank you for coming to conferences like this to be inspired and learn best practices so that you can be more effective. It's one thing. It's one thing to be compassionate. It's another thing to be smart and carrying out your passion. Oh boy, you tweet that. And so, there's a poem that I love so much. As I get older, the poem becomes even more significant. When you hit 65, you start thinking about going on to heaven. But this is a poem I've been saying for the last 50 years. And the words are very simple. You probably heard them. It says, I only have a minute. 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, I did not choose it. But I know that I must use it. Suffer if I abuse it. Give account if I lose it. Only a tiny little minute. But eternity is in it. May God bless.
Thank you, Representative Cummings.